Hey everybody, and welcome back to another video on my channel. So I figured in this video that I would go ahead and change up the WantsToAim situation that we have going on right here into something more like this, where we have like our isCrouching set up to where we have different enumeration states set when we do certain actions. So I wanted to transform it from what we got going on here into something like this. So that way you can kind of get familiar with how like enumerations work and how we can like change up stuff like this to make it more usable, or better, I guess in a sense, better looking for our chooser tables within the within the databases or the post search databases. So this is actually going to be very simple to do, because when we look over this, right, so let's take this isCrouching for example. So you'll see that we have a stance that is, if you click on it, actually, let's go down to it here to states. So if we look at stance, it is getting our enumeration file stance, right? So if we open up our content drawer and we go to our blueprints data, you'll see that we have all these data files right here that are given to us by Epic Games in the Game Animation Sample Project. And you'll notice right here where we have the E-gate, the E-movement mode, the E-movement states, rotation mode, and stances, right? These are the primary state enumeration files that have been created and given to us, right? So, for example, when we look at the stance and then the stance last frame and then the set stance, right? So in the eStance file that we see, so if we go ahead and open it up and talk about it real quick, that you'll see that there's only two options to choose from, or two like options that have been set within this file, right? We have our standing and we have our crouch. So basically what is going on right here when we talk about it just before we change this is that we're setting the stance equal to basically like the first choice, or the the first predefined choice within the file, right? So if we look over here in our stances, so if you don't know anything about enumerations, they're a good way to basically set different states or to do different things with that are like a more, I guess, a better handling of states compared to how like Booleans can handle states, but you would still want to do like branches or whatnot to like set your states. So you can use them separately, or you can use them like real hand in hand, just like this, which would be like really good, right? You can also do something like this where you do a switch on gate, but the way that they're doing this would be within the character blueprint, right? So if you haven't seen my GASP from scratch video series, I discussed how to set up the get desired gate function within the character blueprint. So if you haven't seen that, I highly recommend checking it out so you kind of understand what I'm about to say next. So what's going on in here, so in the character blueprint, if we go back to it, so if I go to blueprints and then character blueprint and then go into the update movement function. So if we go into the event graph, you'll see right here the update movement and then the get desired gate pure function that goes into the set gate movement right in here that is based off of our gate file. So when you actually look through it, it does a bunch of checks or whatnot to get a fixed state or a full stick deflection or movement input that then feeds into return nodes that will get like, our sprinting, our running, and our walking, and then pass it into the gate right here. So when we look at the sandbox character, when we do our different gates, so when we switch on that, what we're essentially doing is like within our animations, because these are purely used for animations, this is how we're able to do the chooser table, because by doing it from here, you can't set these in the chooser table because of how our animation blueprint is being referenced within the chooser table. So that's why they do it like this. So if we go back into it, what we're essentially doing is getting that gate, and we're switching on the E-gate to make walk the walk, run the run, and sprint the sprint, because that's how then we're able to get our desired gate within the animation blueprint. Or not the animation blueprint, the chooser table. So same with this. So if we detect that our state is crouching, we can go hand in hand with an enumeration file into a branch, or not the enumeration file, but the enumeration state with a branch to then choose like, hey, if we're crouching, then set our stance to crouching. If not, set it to stand. So what they're doing here is they're caching the previous or last frame's value and then changing it, onto, whatever we're doing currently. So if we're crouching, then we change it over to crouching. So this is all just to set a predefined state for our character to, right here be standing the way it is. So then when we do crouch, it changes then to crouch and then puts that in here. And then within our chooser table, we get our crouch animations, or however we have them set up. So we're pretty much going to turn this into the same thing as the crouch, because we're not doing any sort of complex setup in the character blueprint to call a switch on, enumeration file. We're going to do a simple branch choosing, right? So what we're going to do, or what I'm going to do if y'all want to follow along, is I'm going to create two variables, and one is going to be aim state, and then the second variable is going to be aim state last frame, just like that. However, this isn't going to work the way we think it is, because what we have to do now is we have to create an enumeration file, because we want to be able to change our animations accordingly to our Boolean value. So open up your content drawer, and what we're going to do is we're going to go to data, and I'm going to create a new enumeration file. So you're going to go to blueprint and then enumeration, and we're going to call this e_, so for enumeration _ aim state, just like that. So basically we're making a variable and an enumeration file that contain the same names, so that way we know what it's using and what it's referencing. So you're going to go ahead and open that up, and in here, just like how they have the stand, right? Because we're trying to, so in one of the previous videos I did when talking about enumerations, you kind of, just like with enumerations and structure files, you kind of want to put like relevant data within those. So enumerations can do stuff on switches, as to where like structure files are relevant values or relevant data pertaining to something like on your switch. So in our aim state, we're going to do two enumerators, right? So we want our default or predefined state to be not aiming, just like that. And then for our second one that we want to change into, we want aiming, just like that. So once you get that, go ahead and save it, and then let's hop back into our animation sandbox character. So here we want to go into our aim state, and we want to do it the same way that they have their states here. So their movement mode and last frame are calling movement mode, rotation mode, etc., etc. So let's click on our aim state, and we're going to look for our aim state, just like that. You don't need your underscores, you can use spaces to just simply get the enumeration file that you're looking for. So we're going to call our enumeration aim state file there. And then for our last state frame, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do aim state, just like that. So now that we have that, what we want to do, I did not mean to scroll out like that. I don't know why it's doing that. Probably because of how, oh yeah, because I was clicked into here, not into here. So once we do that, what we can then do is I'm going to then expand this briefly, just because I'm going to set it up similar to this, right? So I'm going to delete the WantsToAim out of here, but we want to keep these, because we're calling our true false value from our sandbox character blueprint. So if we go back into our sandbox character, you can see if we look for the aiming input, so it should be, yeah, right here. When we trigger our WantsToAim, we're going to then transition into a set Boolean value or set Boolean variable, and our action value when we click our aim button is going to turn this true, or when we release it, turn to false. So whenever we hold the button, we're going to be in a true state. Whenever we release it, we're going to be in a false state. So that's what we're trying to do here. So whatever this gets set to is what we're going to then transition into a branch variable. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to call in a branch node and connect it here. So then what we want to do is we want to set it up similarly to how we have the stance right here and then the stance set variables here. So I'm going to call in I'm going to get my aim state, and then I'm going to then drag in a set state for the last frame, and I'm going to connect the aim state into here. So what you'll then see is if we compile and save, that if we look at our aim state, we have the not aiming, because when we look back at our enumeration file, our first predefined state is a not aiming state. So that's kind of what we want our last frame to be, because we want to start off the game not aiming. Only when we aim do we want our character to actually change over to the new aiming animation. So in doing that, so now you can then connect this into the branch. I'm going to set it nice and neatly. And then after that, we're going to get our aim state, and we're going to grab it twice, and we're going to set them twice, just like how they show up here in the crouching one, just like that. So if we want to aim, if that is true, we're going to change to aiming. However, if we don't want to aim, then we are going to make sure that we are not aiming. So that way our states get transitioned just fine, and our caching of the last frame value gets set accordingly. So once you do that, go ahead and compile and save. And what we're going to do now is, if you've been with me in the last video of my WantsToAim, we're now going to transition, or at least modify, our values in there. So what I'm going to go ahead and do now is I'm going to go ahead and open up my content drawer, and we're going to go to the blueprint, or not the blueprint, but the chooser table that I have modified, or at least did my previous YouTube video on, to show you then what we can adjust. So I'm going to go into content, characters, UEFN mannequin, animations, motion matching data, and then if you again watched my video of how to aim, basically it's going to be here in the dense chooser table. And what we did is in our stand idles here, or stand idles, walks, and runs, if we go in, you will see the pistol turn in place, pistol, idle, etc., that we had set up in that video. So all we would have to do to make these simple adjustments is we would go into here and we would click the three dots, or the ellipses, and do properties. And then right here under selected column, you're going to then change it from the bool column to enum column. So then as you see that once I change that property binding, that now we have to rebind the column. So when we go into here and we go to the sandbox character, you will now see the aim state enumeration file, or the variable that we made. So now once we go into here, you will now see that our choices pop up, and we can now transition to, or change them accordingly to how we want our animations to transition. So with our pistol idles that we set up in that previous video, I'm going to go ahead and change these over to to aiming, and then keep the rest as not aiming. And I'm going to save that, and then let's go ahead and go back and go into our walks, and then do the same thing. So I'm going to click the ellipses, properties, change the bool column to an enum column, and then I'm going to rebind it to the aim state. And then on the pistol ones, I'm going to change them to aiming. And then if we go back and go into our runs, same thing, change the property to an enum column, rebind it to aim state, and then fix the pistol ones. So just like that. And I don't believe we have any sprinting ones. I do think, yeah, we do have these right here. So what I am going to do here is we do need to modify this as well. So if you've seen my crouch aim video, this is where we have these. If you haven't seen that yet, I recommend going to watch that video, so that way you know how to set up the crouch stuff. It's pretty similar to what we did with the WantsToAim video, so I'm going to make sure to link both of them, the videos, in the description for y'all to watch if y'all do want to go back into them. But essentially with the crouching, if you do have crouch aiming animations, you're going to do the same thing here. So for this video as well, I'm going to transition my bindings, or my properties, to the aiming state, and then change the last three to aiming, and then save that. And then I believe in my crouch walks I had the pistol, yep, And so I'm going to change that as well. Find that, and then it's the last three, right? Pistol, 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 yep. So aiming, aiming, aiming. So now that we've changed all that, or at least hopefully have a better understanding of enumeration files, so if we go back to it just before I play the demo, so when we trigger our aim button, which is my right mouse button, so when I press and hold it, it's going to then trigger the action value, and so it's going to then transition to here. It's going to set the WantsToAim to true because our action value counts as true when we press it, and then on release it's going to change to false and set that as false. So with that, what we're doing in here is we are just getting the aim state and caching in the last frame, which is our not aiming, because that's what we want to start off with. And we grab our sandbox character reference from our references, and we get the WantsToAim Boolean that is set within our character blueprint. And then off of the branch condition, if it is true that we want to aim, we are going to then enter the aiming state. If not, then we're going to keep being in the not aiming state, or we're going to transition back into a not aiming state. So I'm going to go ahead and delete the WantsToAim Boolean here, and I'm going to then move both of these states into the states column, or the category. And now I'm going to compile, save, and when we hit play, I'm going to play an editor. This was an error from a different video, so you don't have to worry about that. You shouldn't have any errors. So now I start off not aiming, I'm running around doing normal stuff, but then as soon as I want to aim, you can see that our enumerations are then kicking in and changing our state to an aiming state, and then now I'm aiming. So then if I crouch, you can see that I'm still in an aiming state because we have changed our WantsToAim bool to an aiming state enumeration, and then we can actually do our aiming stuff. So that's how you basically use Booleans to transition into a proper, enumeration state, so that way you can get better animations, or at least a better handling on how things should be animated or used, to make sure that your character does proper movement sets or states. So hopefully that was a good educational video, guys. I try to make it as short as I can with this one, and I'm also going to, in another video, do an update with the crouch and show you how we can do a crouch walk run change. So if you could see here the crouches, I'm going to show you how we can do that, so that way we don't have to have any on our gates. So, and that'll be in another video. So guys, if you liked and enjoyed that, please tune into my other videos just to kind of see my journey along with the Game Animation Sample Project, and hopefully to see you in my future videos to come. So other than that, guys, y'all have a great day and take care. So bye.